All right. Sorry for the technical difficulties if you joined us before on tonight's Talk to Daredevil live stream, but Sam and I are back, and we are hopefully going to get through a complete live stream now. For the purposes of audio and for the people who might already be listening in, Sam, could you say hello and say a few words just to make sure that your audio is working?
Yes, hello everybody. I hope you can hear me this time.
And I'm going to wait for word from our team members, see if anyone hears us. Yes,
Yes,
they
hello.
hear you, Sam. Okay, now we can finally get started. All right, as I said, welcome to another Talk Daredevil live stream. We are here tonight because some pretty big and interesting news came out quite early this morning. As you may have seen on our Twitter account or social media accounts and really many other places. Daredevil and the rest of the Defenders verse shows, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, The Punisher, and The Defenders are officially leaving Netflix as of March 1st, midnight. We have been kind of following this news all day and seeing the feedback from fans or just, people who are new to the show or like longtime followers of the campaign or just Marvel fans in general. And there's a lot of different reactions. There's excitement, there's anxiety, nervousness. And we figured, you know what, this seems like a good opportunity for us to hop on and kind of try to break things down for everyone. We know that a lot of new fans have come into the Daredevil fandom since No Way Home. And so we don't want to take for granted that not everyone understands all the details that really go almost all the way back so many years to the beginning of this Disney Netflix partnership to create the original Defender shows. So, we're going to try to get people up to speed. We're going to try to explain what those particulars are that led to these shows, the cancellation, and then why they're reverting back to Disney. And then we're going to do a little bit of speculating because we enjoy doing stuff like that about what we can expect to see from the Disney Marvel streaming service side, and just what we might anticipate this would mean for Daredevil in general. So, Sam, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All
Um,
right.
so the first thing we have seen a lot of people asking, like, how can this be? How can a Netflix-owned show leave Netflix? Because these are Netflix original series.
Hmm.
And well, the thing is, like, they were never owned by Netflix, and we have been saying this for a long time. And this goes back all the way back to Bob Iger on 2013. He said that the shows were going to be owned by them, but they were being produced for Netflix. And what this means is just basically Netflix becomes the parent network. This is the same thing that happens with regular TV shows. You have a channel where they are airing, but the channel doesn't necessarily owns the rights to the shows. Usually the creators and whatever studios is making that owns them. And it's the same with a lot of these Netflix originals because they are not the best people at differentiating this. Like original can mean that they have exclusive right to show those, like to stream those series in a certain country. It also can mean they have them globally.
Hmm.
It also can mean that the shows were created for Netflix, as was the case with the Marvel shows, which means basically that they didn't air anywhere else. They don't have another channel or anything. They were dropped on Netflix, and that's it.
Hmm.
But they are still developed by other people, by a third party, and those people own the rights. And then you have the case of things that Netflix actually owns or co-owns with somebody, like Stranger Things, which Netflix has the rights to it. So that's not going to be leaving Netflix because they own it. But these are three very different types of contracts and like series, but they are all called Netflix originals. And this is where the confusion comes from.
Right. And I think it's also important to point out that we are in 2022.
Yeah.
in case anyone wasn't sure. And this deal that Disney and Netflix made to make the Defender shows was struck in 2013. So I don't know if anyone can think back that far to what Netflix was like in 2013, but they were not the juggernaut that they are now. They were trying to build up um, their streaming platform. They were trying to do a lot of exciting, audacious things, which is why this whole Netflix Disney partnership to make Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and the Defenders was so groundbreaking at the time, because it was this all-in commitment on 5 shows, sight unseen. A lot of money was involved, and it was all going to be on Netflix exclusively. Um, so they weren't in the position as we would imagine Netflix is now. We imagine Netflix now as a platform with a lot of money and a lot of leverage. But that was not the case in 2013. They needed to partner with companies like Disney to take advantage of their IP to make exciting programming that would bring people to their platform. And at that time, Disney wasn't in anywhere close to being in the streaming game. So many many networks and studios that we know now that do have their own streaming platforms were not even close to being there. So people were pretty good about, oh yeah, we'll just license this to Netflix. We'll let them take this exclusive licensing deal, and do what they want with the content. They didn't think that far ahead. Obviously, the game has changed quite a bit in the last few years, and that's partially why, we're where we're at now with the Save Daredevil campaign. But yeah, so I think it's important to kind of contextualize the Netflix of then versus the Netflix now.
Yeah, I think like you bring an excellent point, because it was just very recently when all these big studios started announcing their own platforms that Netflix actually started investing really, really big money into making their own programming. Before that, they just licensed stuff. And that
Yeah.
makes sense because of the same origin of Netflix, where they started just renting like DVDs and stuff like that. So it has been a progression for them also from that origin to creating their own content.
Yeah.
And like you said, when this was sealed in 2013, they weren't even anywhere close to what they are now. So yeah, they didn't have the power just to take like a Marvel IP from Disney. That
Right. And we've seen that kind of reaction from the fans, like, why would Netflix do that? Like, why would they let someone take their show? And again, they were never going to be able, well, I don't think they could outright own anything like Marvel now, but they definitely couldn't do that in 2013. So just remember, they weren't leveraging from a place that you would be more familiar with, like today. Um, and and yeah. Actually, Sam, can you pull up the Bob Iger quote real quick
yes,
so people can see it? Because I think it is like a really helpful quote to see fully in context.
yeah, they
And
have.
in case it's a little small, I can just read it out loud real quick. But um, he specifically says that for Netflix, because they've done well already with their investments in original programming. Oh, that's the end of a sentence. I'm going to keep going. And turning to branded programming is a smart and big step for them, and Marvel certainly provides that. This gives us an opportunity to create and own 4 new series that Netflix will have exclusivity on for a period of time, starting in 2016 when the series are made available to them. And these will be well-produced series that will take production investment to deliver the type of quality we promise to Netflix. So again, the key things are Disney owns the series, and Netflix will have exclusivity on them for a period of time. And if you're like, that's a lot of information, I need to know more, we did record a mini-sode about this, about why Daredevil was still on Netflix. And that kind of breaks down all the things that we're talking about now in even further detail. So we're going to make sure to drop the link in the description so you can go back and do a little bit of research if you're interested. But I think this is probably enough context here, and we're probably going to move on. And so we touch on a few more points tonight.
Yep, I agree. That's a good one. Go watch the video. It's really good.
Yeah,
Like we predicted this, although
we
I
did.
really expected this to happen like probably next year, not quite so fast.
Yes, maybe someone who rewatches it can tell us when did we predict it and let us know how close we were. Okay. So let's like fast forward to now. Um, we're gonna kind of drop some more like little industry things that have happening that you may be familiar with if you're like a fan of Disney, Marvel stuff. But I guess it's the Bob Chapek of it all. Bob Chapek is the current CEO of Disney. He replaced Bob Iger. I want to say it was like the handover happened probably 2 years ago when the pandemic first started, I believe. But
It was
I don't think Bob Iger fully left though until just recently. Is
it
that
was
right?
before the pandemic, I feel like right
Okay,
before the pandemic. But
right
then
before.
because the pandemic happened, and like everything shut down, including the
Yeah.
Disney parks, I feel like
Mhm.
Bob Iger was brought back in just to
Right.
handle that crisis. That's
Yeah.
that's what I remember at least.
Yeah. And I don't have this in front of me, but I wanna say that Bob Iger, like, officially retired, like, sometime at the end of last year. So it was, like, late it was around the holidays, I feel like, when he tweeted that he was officially, like, turning the reins over. Um, but it's important to note that because Bob Iger and Bob Chapek, I believe, have always been a little bit, at odds about, their view of the brand and especially, like, how they wanna handle original content in the brand, and I think where Bob Iger was perhaps more, conservative on the brand and, how they wanted to associate Disney Plus with, like, only family-friendly stuff, Bob Chapek does seem to be a little bit more, kind of aggressive on expanding what the definition of, like, original content on Disney Plus could look like. And I think we have a link, about that. Do we, Sam, that we can pull up?
About Bob Iger?
About Bob Chapek, the Hollywood Reporter, link about general entertainment.
Do we give
Well, we were
me?
just reading about it. Maybe we didn't leave it open.
Yeah, I don't think that one was.
Yeah. No worries, but, we were also talking about this right before we started our stream, and it was basically, how Bob Chapek in the quarterly earnings call on February 9th talked about how the Disney Plus brand was gonna be expanding to accommodate more general titles. And so, his quote specifically was, "The biggest opportunity, though, in terms of significance, is with general entertainment being added to the service." And general entertainment is kind of like a weird broad term, but in the context of like some of the articles we were reading, he references that in relation to the kind of content that would usually go to Hulu. Um, so if you're a subscriber in the US, you probably have multiple streaming platforms from Disney. You have Disney Plus and then you have Hulu. And Disney Plus kind of has all the family friendly stuff and anything really directly affiliated with the Disney brand. And Hulu has all the mature stuff and I guess is quote unquote general entertainment stuff. So stuff that doesn't necessarily connect directly with Disney right away, or it could be stuff that comes from other studios, other networks. Um, so knowing that Chapek kind of wants to push this like this initiative to start combining those two content streams, is really interesting. And I don't know, Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's like you said, we all knew that Disney was going to have to get into the general entertainment game sooner rather than later because they are trying to compete with Netflix, in
Hmm.
the streaming game because they are, as a whole company, they are way bigger than that. But in the streaming platforms, they are chasing after Netflix. And the good thing about Netflix is that they have a lot of variety. There's
Hmm.
something for everybody to watch there. And that's why people like it, right? That's
Hmm.
not the case with Disney Plus, and that's barely the case with Hulu. So they do have to do something more diverse
Right.
to get the big audience that Netflix has. Even though like Disney Plus has excellent numbers and Hulu has been growing steadily too, but like to capture people like my mom who pretty
Yeah.
much only watches movies in like European movies and everything in
Right.
Netflix. To capture
Yeah.
her, they need to do more. So this we saw coming, and I think we also talked about this before in this channel.
Hmm.
But what what's important about this is the other thing that is leaving Netflix that can probably connect to this, and that's Agents of Shield.
Yeah. So that was a new thing. I didn't realize that when we had like because when we posted about it last night, we only looked at our shows. We didn't look at
How will you
any other
commit
Marvel
us?
shows. We figured it was only relevant to the Defender stuff because that's what we'd always like looked into. We were only concerned about what that licensing deal might have looked like for the Defenders verse. But as it turns out, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is also leaving Netflix by February 28th. So this is very fascinating to us for many reasons. Um, because to us, it sort of feels like Disney is really making one big move to remove all their content. I think it's important to distinguish again that all of these things are governed by different contracts, different licensing agreements, different deals. This is not like one big package deal between Disney and Netflix. The stuff that they did with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and ABC, that's like negotiated completely separately from that specific deal they made in 2013 to make the Defender shows. So the fact that everything is getting pulled off at once is just, I don't know, it gives us a lot of hints and a lot of like tea leaves to read. Don't you think,
Yep.
Sam?
Yeah, but I think it's too much of a coincidence. Like, if it was, I already was like, my bells were ringing when I saw like all the shows leaving at the same time. That's not
Mm-hmm.
very common for Netflix stuff. Like, I have
No.
seen even Netflix stuff that lives by season. So that was a bit odd, but because they were negotiated like as a package and stuff, I was like, okay, maybe that makes sense. Maybe
Right.
that's the case for all the shows. But the moment you put Agents of Shield there, which is an ABC show, so it's not a Netflix original,
Mm-hmm.
it must have been negotiated completely separated of those shows. The moment you have it pulled at the same time as the Defender shows, that's too much of a coincidence. That really smells like Disney is trying to get back the rest of the Marvel IPs from Netflix.
Right. Yeah. And so like it's kind of a big deal, you guys. Like
It really
this is
is.
like we thought it was major already with our shows, but it's like even more major knowing that Agents of Shield is going with them. And we're not going to talk too much about that. I'm sure folks in the fandoms are going to be a buzz about that on their own. But where I think it connects really interestingly to us is another news article that came up today, which is specifically about Comcast. And so again, another little quick education moment. um, not many people know that Hulu used to be owned by like a number of different studios that went in together on this platform. And kind of one by one, Disney ended up taking over their shares. And Comcast, which is also, I don't know is it Comcast and NBC Universal as NBC Universal? Could be like a subsidiary.
I think
Anyway, they're all the
it's
same.
Comcast.
Yeah. Anyway, all part of the same company. Obviously, for those of you who stream a lot know that they started their own streaming platform relatively recently called Peacock. Um, but there was always this little like entwining of just like shows and licenses and rights in this Hulu pot. So even though Disney owns most of it, they don't own all of it. Now, that being said, there was already kind of a roadmap for Comcast to get their share bought out by Disney, I want to say by like 2024, 2025. But now it seems that, as you can see in this article on the screen, they are in near a deal to shift their content over to Peacock from Hulu. So, kind of like in more simpler terms, they're taking their content away that would have gone on Hulu anyway. And now Hulu needs more stuff. So it's interesting then to think about in context of these shows suddenly leaving Netflix so soon, possibly sooner um, than uh, than we would have thought, and showing up on these platforms because maybe they need content. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
all, the timing is all very interesting.
yeah. So it goes back to Bob Chapek and everything. So he was saying like
Mhm.
they need more general entertainment. You have now Comcast that seems to be wanting to move faster with Peacock, so they are probably on their way to leave Hulu. And I feel like there was also either a rumor or some noise about them maybe wanting to sell the Hulu shares sooner.
Mhm.
So all that and the shows leaving Netflix, like Agents of Shield and the Defender shows, um, it seems like they might be on their way to Hulu, and it seems like if Disney is giving Netflix money, which is probably the case for them to get the shows back earlier,
Mhm.
that means they have plans with these shows. They are not going to just take the shows for nothing, like lose that
Right.
money. They must have plans with them. And I think this is a greenfield for that. You have
Mhm.
a CEO that wants more general entertainment,
Mhm.
probably more mature content so that they can appeal to a wider range of people.
Mhm.
You have the block road basically because they weren't growing Hulu as fast as they could before, most likely because they will have to pay Comcast a lot more money. By the end of the
Mhm.
contract, Comcast is going to sell their shares by how they are valued at that point, meaning that
Yeah.
the more Hulu grows, the more money Disney has to give Comcast. So obviously they are going to be a very like, maybe we don't want to um, like get Hulu too big right now. Otherwise, we will have to give Comcast a lot of money. But if Comcast is selling now, they are going to be like, okay, now we have to start thinking of where to grow Hulu or how to
Right.
grow it. So yeah,
Right.
it all connects to it, in my opinion, and that's my speculation.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and I think before we get too deep into this, I do want to make sure that we don't miss talking about something probably pretty important to the new fans, which is like, what are fans going to do now that the shows are leaving Netflix? How are they going to watch the shows again? And I think you start this topic with a good point. Is that, let's say that Disney did pay money to reacquire um, the distribution rights early, or just in a more complete form. They're not like putting these in the vault. I think some of us have grown up with the idea of the Disney vault, and Disney just locks things away from us. As you said, that would be a kind of a really bad way to spend all that money, especially when you have platforms that need content.
Yep.
So our fairly informed assumption is that they are going to show up on a Disney-owned platform, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing sometimes for some people because we obviously have Hulu, but Hulu is US only. Um, so sometimes when people hear Hulu, they think, "Oh, well, that sucks because I don't have Hulu. I don't have access to that. How am I gonna watch it?" So just FYI, if you are a Disney Plus subscriber in most other areas of the world, you probably have something called Star that is already integrated into your Disney Plus service. That is kind of like where all the Hulu general entertainment stuff filters into the Disney Plus app. I do believe, talking to some of the European team members, that with Marvel content specifically, it's just all in Marvel. So they don't make any distinction between like the rating. So that's like super interesting. So for those of you who are worried about where you might be able to find this, but you do live in a country with Disney Plus, then I think the odds are pretty good you're going to find it on Disney Plus. For those of us here in the United States, because the shows are mature rated, it will probably be on Hulu. But to kind of tie it back though to this conversation we're having about Comcast and um, Hulu making moves, um, if you're kind of following along with my explanation, it sounds like Disney has a more integrated app experience in other markets versus the United States. And Sam and I, we have discussed this in the past, like our theories about if they can kind of get out of this, if they can get Comcast out of the Hulu equation sooner, it probably puts them quicker on a path to integrate their streaming experience here in the United States too. So that is very, very speculative. We don't know if that's actually the plan, but I think that signs can point that way because that is what they're doing internationally in most places. I will say Latin America is a exception to that rule. They have a similar setup to us, and Hulu. Their Hulu is called Star Plus.
Yes.
But this does seem to be the direction things are trending. And it really lines up with what Bob Chapek has said about wanting to kind of put things together or put things more toward Disney Plus. To me, these are like words that describe what should hopefully eventually be just one unified streaming service. So,
Yeah, that's the hope. And I think it might be a reality. I hope someday.
mhm,
Even if it is not like one single streaming platform, maybe it is like a bundle. You have that with
mhm,
Hulu nowadays, where you
right,
can add on like HBO and stuff. Maybe you end up like adding your Hulu and ESPN Plus to your Disney Plus account or something, just to
right,
make it
right.
more easier, to just navigate and like
Oh,
deal with it.
absolutely. Like, yeah, it's like maybe once all these complicated like licensing things like finally get settled, you know, the whole UI UX of Disney Plus, like it could still be a separate service technically, but it's just a tile you can add to Disney Plus. And
Yeah.
I think ultimately, and I think I literally have said this on this channel that that's literally all I want. I just want to be able to open one app and get to all the shows I want to watch. I don't want to have to open three apps. So if I can add it on like I can in like Amazon Prime, I would love that.
Yeah, me too.
Mhm. Okay, let's see. So we covered that. Oh, there is also one little thing that we do want to bring up again. So we covered fans who have access to Disney Plus or live in a market with Disney Plus. There may still be a few markets that don't have access to Disney Plus yet, and understandably, those fans might be a little bit more nervous than others. There is this link that we found called justwatch.com, and you are able, and thank you for pulling that up, Sam. It looks like you can search by your country and it will tell you where you can stream it and where you can buy it. Now, it still might not be available to buy in your country, but our hope is that utilizing resources like this, if you are worried that you won't be able to stream it on a service anytime soon, we would really recommend you just go ahead and buy it. I know for folks in the US, a lot of people can buy on YouTube. I think it used to be Google Play. I think that all got moved to YouTube. They can buy on Amazon. So I think if that's an option, I think that would be a great way to own it and then not have to worry about where you might stream it again. Um, I will also say to anyone who's like looking for a Blu-ray, there is no official Blu-ray of season 3. So if you are finding it, just keep in mind it's probably a bootleg. I mean, it might still be totally functional for your own needs, but just FYI, there was never an official release. But who knows? Maybe with Disney requiring it, they could want to re-release some stuff for collectors. I don't know. I would be down with that. But yeah, so we're going to drop the link to this as well for those of you who need to find some alternative sources. So
So we should also talk about what this could mean for Daredevil, like the whole thing.
mhm.
Because, like we said, it's probably going to Hulu, and we have Bob Chapek who might want to expand more on mature content and general audience.
Mhm.
So this could have a lot of implications for the shows, and especially for Daredevil, which is right now what's hot.
Right. Like elephant in the room, but not really. It's No Way Home. Like
Yep.
I can't really quantify how much awareness has grown or like the fandom has grown, but people are very, very hot on Daredevil right now. And so I don't think Disney is clearly very aware of this. Again, these all might just be like all of these pieces and all these things that are happening might be all part of the same thing. But like knowing that all these things are happening and all these stars are aligning, if you guys follow us and you know the campaign, you know that we have continued to hold out um, for Daredevil returning in some form as a series because we really truly believe that this is where Daredevil shines in long form storytelling. This is where, and we know that he shines there because we've had 3 seasons, and we do think that that story deserves to be told in that way. So now that you've taken away kind of a common refrain that some folks on the internet have kind of said that, well, why would Marvel ever like make like another Daredevil show? They would just be sending people over to their competitor to Netflix to watch the other seasons. There's a lot less obstacles in the way now. To us, it was never an obstacle, but we know for some people mentally it was. So there's just really like less and less as far as reasons go as to why Marvel Studios um, wouldn't pursue more Daredevil content overall, whether that be a series. Like, if you ask me, I want them to do everything, but I'd love them to start with a series. But my point is, there's really no excuse not to.
I agree. Like, back when Marvel TV like established system when it merged with Marvel Studio, we remember like we were thinking, okay, how can season 4 happen? Because now it's
Mhm.
like the studio's gone. Netflix has the shows on their platform still, and like what's going on? What's going to happen? But
Mhm.
every idea, like every blockage to get season 4 that we had before, has been slowly just going away, because people were saying, okay, Kevin Feige is not going to use those characters because he didn't cast them and he didn't,
Mhm.
they are not his character. He will want his version. But now we have Matt Murdock on No Way Home, and we have the
Mhm.
Kingpin on Hawkeye. So they are using at the very least the actors, and
Right.
from what it sounds, they are using at least the backgrounds of the shows, right?
Mhm. Right.
And we were like, okay, maybe then they're going to do a soft reboot or something, because the shows are still on Netflix, and let's say they
Mhm.
don't want to do a direct continuation because of that. But now they are not on Netflix anymore, and they are most likely going to a Disney-owned platform. So if they wanted to do season 4 right now, they could do season 4. I mean, not the season 4 that we heard about from Eric,
Right.
because
Right.
that's not going to happen,
Mhm.
but a direct continuation of the show. And even if they didn't want to call it season 4, if they wanted to call it something different, the point
Mhm.
is they have the shows now probably
Mhm.
on their like on the way to their platform,
Mhm.
so they don't have the barrier of saying, okay, now they have to watch that on another platform. They can
Right.
fully reference it because they are going to have it.
Mhm.
Just go
Yeah.
watch the shows, and now you know what's going on, and they can just continue it, even if they want to call it a new thing.
Mhm. I'm gonna quote Charlie Cox, who I believe in his most recent interview, the one that you have on there, right now is, "The sky's the limit." So, we're gonna put it out there. Like, "Sky's the limit, Marvel. You can do whatever you want, and you know what we want, and I think you're seeing what the fans want." So, I don't know, we're feeling good tonight, basically. We're really feeling good about the prospects. We're feeling extremely optimistic about where this news lands us. And so we're really hoping that those of you who maybe were concerned or on the fence will kind of understand now why we thought this was positive news. Um, yeah. Do you have any more thoughts, Sam? I think we can probably start wrapping up. If you have any questions for us, we might have like a little bit of time to answer a few things.
Yeah, I think that's a good
So,
plan.
yeah, so do feel free to drop those into the chat. Thank you again so much for bearing with us with our technical difficulties. I think we've had a few for the last few live streams, and we still appreciate you coming out and hanging out with us and listening to us ramble on about this thing that we love so much. I actually think we have a couple of questions from Twitter that we can address first while we wait for folks if they have any. a thing to add to the live chat. But this was one that we saw. Someone was expressing that they were worried that the only reason they put Matt in No Way Home was to draw new fans to Disney Plus. What do you think, Sam?
I mean, why? Matt is not on Disney Plus right now. It might not be on Disney Plus at all if they end up going to Hulu. So I think that the reason that they put Matt on No Way Home is because he's popular and like this movement exists and everybody was asking for it. Like we had to sit through how many months of rumors of them saying he's going to be Peter's lawyer. I'm sure that even Marvel got tired of reading those rumors at some point. So I think that they did that because they knew that the fans will love it.
Yeah. Actually, the really great thing in that that Hollywood Reporter article, I think there was a little description from Charlie about when he shot that scene, and John Watts was literally like, okay, we're going to set you up like this and we're going to like hold on it because people are going to like freak out when they see you. I'm paraphrasing. And Charlie was like, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. And of course, John Watts was right. Yeah, I just wanted to point out that whole interview was a lot of fun. Like, please read it. But obviously, I don't think they need Matt Murdock to drive traffic to Disney Plus. I think they did it because they knew it would just be a great thing for the movie, and for fans of Marvel. So yeah.
Yeah. That being said, now that it has pretty much blown up, because now I have seen so many new people watching the show and everything. So if he was popular before, he's going to be super popular now, just with how many minutes in No Way Home?
Literally 1 minute.
Yeah.
And speaking of new fans, I just want to, I am looking at the live chat, and we do have a fan named Katie with us tonight who is a new fan of Daredevil, and it is almost her birthday. So happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Welcome to the fandom. We're very happy you're here. Okay, sorry. Please continue.
No, yeah, but I was saying, like, now that it's blown up and he's getting so famous, they're totally going to capitalize on that. And I think that might be part of what they are pulling the shows from like, Netflix. Because they are, like, did you see they were, Daredevil was breaking top 10 on
Daredevil broke top 10 on Netflix, like, how many years after cancellation? Like, that's impressive. Like, and you know what? We might have like some links to some tweets that our resident campaign data cat named Meow. That might not make sense to anybody. I'm sorry. But if we have links to some data that she's pulled together kind of on those viewing numbers post No Way Home, we will definitely share them for you guys to look at, because it is like super impressive when you think about it. There's kind of like this, I mean, even before No Way Home, I think excitement was ramping, but I don't know if Disney anticipated after No Way Home how much the popularity of this character really was going to blow up. So again, like, only smart moves to take advantage of that, in my opinion.
Yep. I agree.
Okay. We don't see any questions from the live chat, which is absolutely fine. There is one more thing. I guess maybe we'll end on this. There was one more thing from Twitter. And then I guess we'll just wrap it up. But this tweet was saying that they're scared that actually, sorry, I'm reading the tweet to myself right now because I don't know actually if I understand the full context of it. I guess basically the tweet is expressing that they're just afraid that they're going to like reintroduce the characters in a family-friendly way, or they're not going to introduce them at all. In the case of like the Punisher and Jessica Jones. What do you think about that, Sam? I'm going to keep throwing it to you. But
so they are worried that they are not going to introduce Jessica Jones and put Punisher and the other ones. So they're very popular too, especially those two, like Jessica Jones and the Punisher with John and oh god, I always get her name.
Kristen Ritter.
Yeah, I can't pronounce her name.
No worries, I got you.
So yeah, they are very popular, and like the shows are very popular, and they are really good actors. So I think they actually got a good chance of coming back. I don't know if they have plans for them, like their own series and stuff. But I can totally see them coming back for Easter eggs and stuff like that. Marvel
Absolutely.
loves doing that. We even had on WandaVision Quicksilver from the Fox one, just like,
Right.
as an Easter egg, which
Right.
we expect to.
A very trolly
We
Easter egg,
Yeah,
but an
yeah.
Easter egg
Everybody would
nonetheless.
hope it was more, but we had it. So I don't see why those actors that are way closer to the MCU than the Fox actors wouldn't come back as their
Right.
characters. What they are thinking to do about them, and like if they are going to get a new show or something, I have no idea.
Hmm. Yeah. And I guess this is also kind of a good point to wrap back to is, Jessica Jones and The Punisher will also presumably have their existing seasons on Hulu. So as with the point you made with Daredevil and Marvel really not having that barrier anymore to doing some kind of a continuation from the original seasons, that those 2 shows have their seasons there as context too. So I guess it doesn't really make sense to me that they would just completely reintroduce them in a different way if people are gonna be watching these shows anyway. Like, I get that we still have to figure out how to, make it maybe more palatable in certain respects for the MCU, at least these Easter eggs themselves. I think what might be interesting to see, obviously, with, like, Daredevil is we've seen him in this quick cameo. He is rumored to have more cameos. We are hopeful that at some point we'll see him do a solo, and I think that all the things that he may or may not appear in, I don't think they're all gonna be exactly the same. I don't think we're gonna know exactly what he'll be like until he can be in his own solo show. So I think there's gonna be that same aspect there with any of the characters. So if any of the characters and their actors do come back and they only get introduced initially in little cameos or little, like, side characters here and there, I think the verdict will still be out essentially. So I don't know if we can make any assumptions at this point that it's gonna be too family friendly. I think that there are ways to, like, modify the character a little bit to fit into different projects that might not be their normal tone, but still do the things that you're familiar with and really enjoy about them when they get to do their own thing. So, yeah, so that's my
Yeah,
take on that.
and we have to remember, like, we don't put a lot of credits on rumors here. I think anybody that knows us knows that.
Mhm.
But we did hear some rumors about Jessica Jones maybe appearing in She-Hulk and stuff like
Right.
that back then. So even
Mhm.
if they are not true, like, people are still looking for those characters. So there's
Mhm.
demand for them, and
Mhm.
I'm sure that Disney is seeing that too. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they just pop up somewhere at some point. Like,
Right.
why not?
Exactly. Sorry, gonna quote Charlie again. Sky's the limit. Like, let's
It's a good,
go,
it's
right?
yeah, it's a
So
good quote.
it's a good quote. Thank you, Charlie. Okay, well, I mean, I think that just about wraps it up. So thank you again, everyone, for hanging out this long with us. We're gonna again update our description with some more links, a little bit more info that we talked about tonight. Um, and yeah, as always, we are just so appreciative of your support. If you like what we're doing here, please do feel free to subscribe. We do try to come out with some semi regular content on this channel. It is a bit of this particular Talk Daredevil thing is a bit of a spin off of a podcast that we do that's also called Talk Daredevil. So if you are discovering Daredevil for the first time and you want to hear a bunch of really diehard fans talk about Daredevil in almost every potential like configuration aspect you can imagine, feel free to check out our podcast. We have a lot of episodes for you to catch up on. And yeah, and that's it for now. Thank you, Sam. I always love doing these with you.
Yeah, it's great doing it.
It's fun.
Just saying, we might have a version of this in Spanish later on. I hope so.
Perfect.
So
Mhm.
yeah, if you prefer Spanish, look forward to that.
Yes, and if you didn't even know we had Spanish content, please look at our channel. We do have some Spanish versions of a few of these minisodes.
Yep.
So yeah, okay, all right. That's it for us. Thank you for supporting Save Daredevil. We'll see you
Thank
out
you,
there.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.